I sold my company for $42 million, and suddenly my son remembered he loved me. That's not cynicism talking. That's just the truth. For 37 years, I built Halvick Distribution from a two-man operation in a rented warehouse to the largest motorcycle parts supplier in the Northeast. Grant was born when I was 27, right when I was sleeping 4 hours a night and eating gas station sandwiches for dinner. He grew up watching me miss his baseball games because a shipment got delayed or a supplier went bankrupt. He went to college on loans because every spare dollar went back into inventory. When he graduated, he didn't ask about the business. He asked when I was going to finally make it. Now I'd made it. $42 million, after taxes and legal fees, enough to retire at 58 and actually enjoy the back half of my life. Enough to take Erin on that cruise she'd been talking about since our 20th anniversary. Enough to stop waking up at 3 in the morning worrying about payroll. And suddenly Grant was calling every other day. Suddenly Mara, his wife of 3 years, wanted to throw me a retirement party. A real celebration, she said. Something photo-ready. Because real families don't look cheap on social media. I should have known something was wrong right then. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up to the morning of the party, because that's when Erin first said something was off. We were in the kitchen of our house in Millbrook, the same 3-bedroom ranch we'd bought in 1991. Erin was making coffee, and I was reading the financial section, still trying to wrap my head around the fact that I didn't have a business to check on anymore. No emails about delayed shipments, no angry calls from mechanics who'd received the wrong gaskets. Just empty space where the last 4 decades used to be. "Dean," Erin said, setting a mug down in front of me. "Do you think it's weird that Mara's been texting me every day this week?" I looked up. "What's she saying?" "Nothing specific. Just checking if we need anything for tonight. Asking what you like to drink. Making sure we're not allergic to anything." She sat down across from me, her gray-streaked hair pulled back in the same ponytail she'd worn since the 80s. 56 years old, and still the sharpest person I knew. It feels like she's planning something. She is planning something. The party. No, I mean something else. Erin wrapped her hands around her coffee mug. "She's been too sweet. Yesterday she wasn't this interested in your dietary restrictions." I shrugged. Maybe she's trying to make a good impression. After 3 years of marriage, she already made her impression. Erin leaned forward. "I'm serious, Dean. Something feels wrong." I wanted to dismiss it. I wanted to believe that Grant had finally realized his old man wasn't the enemy, that Mara had finally stopped seeing me as the small-time grease monkey who didn't understand their world of corporate networking and Instagram aesthetics. But Erin's instincts were rarely wrong. In 40 years of marriage, she'd called every bad business deal before I signed it, every employee who was about to quit, every friend who turned out to be a user. "Keep your eyes open tonight," I said. "If something's off, we'll leave early." She nodded, but the worry didn't leave her face. The party was at 7. Mara had rented the Riverside Lodge, an upscale venue about 20 miles north, right on the water, the kind of place with exposed beams and Edison bulbs and a wine list that cost more than my first car. When we pulled into the parking lot, I counted at least 40 vehicles. I recognized maybe 10. "Who are all these people?" I asked. Erin checked her phone. According to Mara's Instagram story, they're close friends and family celebrating a milestone moment. "I don't know half these cars. Influencer friends, probably. She needs content." We walked inside. The main hall was decorated with tasteful white and gold balloons, a banner that read, "Congratulations, Dean," in elegant script, and a professional photographer circling the room like a shark. Grant spotted us immediately and came over, his smile too wide, his handshake too firm. "Dad, you made it." He was wearing a suit that probably cost more than my first motorcycle. His hair was gelled back, his teeth too white. At 31, he looked like every corporate climber I'd ever avoided doing business with. "Wouldn't miss my own party," I said. Mara appeared behind him, phone in hand, already angling for a photo. She was 29, blonde, and expensively maintained. Everything about her screamed wealth, from her designer dress to her perfect makeup to the way she positioned herself so the light hit her face just right. "Dean! Aaron! Oh my God, you look amazing!" She hugged us both, her perfume overwhelming. "We have to get a picture. Everyone's been asking about the man of the hour." Before I could object, she'd pulled us into a pose, her phone held high, her smile practiced. Flash, flash, flash. Then she was typing, probably uploading it before we'd even let go. "Come on, Dad. Let me introduce you to some people." Grant steered me toward a cluster of strangers. I caught Erin's eye over my shoulder. She was watching Mara with that same worried expression from this morning. The next hour was a blur of handshakes and small talk with people I'd never met and would never see again. Grant kept introducing me as the man who built an empire from nothing, which wasn't exactly true but sounded better than the guy who sold motorcycle parts for 40 years. Mara kept reappearing to orchestrate photos, always making sure she was in the frame, always checking her phone to see if the posts were getting enough engagement. I was talking to one of Grant's colleagues when I noticed Mara slip away from the crowd. She went to the bar area, where champagne glasses were lined up for the toast. The bartender had stepped away to help another guest. Mara glanced around, then pulled something small from her purse. I stopped mid-sentence. She was holding what looked like a pill or a capsule. She broke it open over one of the glasses, the contents dissolving into the champagne. Then she stirred it quickly with her finger, dried her hand on her dress, and smiled at someone across the room. I excused myself from the conversation and moved closer, trying to look casual. The glass she'd tampered with was in the front row, second from the left, exactly where the guest of honor's glass would be during a toast. My glass. I scanned the room for Erin. She was talking to Leah, our daughter, near the windows. Leah looked uncomfortable, like she wanted to be anywhere else. She'd always been the quiet one, overshadowed by Grant's ambition and Mara's need for attention. At 26, she was working as a graphic designer, barely scraping by, but she'd never asked us for money. Not once. I caught Erin's eye and tilted my head toward the bar. She understood immediately, excused herself, and came over. "What is it?" she whispered. I told her what I'd seen. Her face went pale. "You're sure?" "I saw her, clear as day." "What are you going to do?" That's when I noticed Vivian Trentwell, Mara's mother, heading toward the bar area. Vivian was everything her daughter was and worse. Upper class, materialistic, obsessed with appearances. She'd spent the last 3 years comparing Grant to her wealthy friends' sons, making sure we knew that in her world, a motorcycle parts distributor was barely middle class. She was wearing enough jewelry to fund a small country and carrying herself like she owned the place. An idea formed. It was petty. It was risky. But something cold and hard had settled in my chest the moment I watched Mara poison that glass. "Wait here," I said to Erin. I walked to the bar area, casual, like I was just checking on the champagne situation. Vivian was right behind me, already talking to someone on her phone. The bartender was still busy, the glasses were unguarded. I identified the tampered glass. Second from the left, front row. Then I very carefully moved it to the third position, where Vivian's name card was placed. I put another glass, clean and untouched, in the second position where mine should be. Then I stepped back and walked away. My hands were shaking. Erin grabbed my arm. "Dean, what did you do?" "I swapped glasses." "With who?" "Vivian." Her eyes went wide. "Dean, whatever she put in there was meant for me, Erin. If I drink it, I'm the one who collapses. If I call it out now, they'll deny it, claim I'm paranoid, maybe even turn it around on me. But if Vivian drinks it," I met her eyes, "then we know exactly what we're dealing with. That's her mother. And she just tried to poison her father-in-law." Erin stared at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Okay. But we leave the second something happens. No confrontation. We get out and figure this out somewhere safe. Agreed. 5 minutes later, Grant called for everyone's attention. The crowd gathered around the bar area. The photographer positioned himself for the money shot. Mara stood next to Grant, her smile perfect, her phone ready to capture every angle. "Everyone, thank you so much for coming tonight." Grant's voice carried across the room. "We're here to celebrate an incredible man who spent almost 40 years building something from nothing. My father taught me what hard work looks like, what dedication means, and tonight we get to honor everything he's accomplished." Polite applause. I noticed Leah wasn't clapping. She was watching Mara with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Fear? Guilt?" Grant continued. "So if everyone could grab a glass, we'll do a proper toast. Dad, come on up here." I walked forward, my heart pounding. Mara handed me the glass from the second position, the clean one. She was still smiling, but I saw something flicker in her eyes when she realized I had the wrong glass. Vivian picked up the third glass without looking at it. "To Dean Halvick," Grant said, raising his champagne. "The hardest working man I know. Congratulations on your retirement, Dad. You earned it." "To Dean," the crowd echoed. Everyone drank. I brought the glass to my lips, but didn't swallow. I watched Vivian over the rim. She took a long sip, then another, draining half the glass in one go. Typical Vivian. No restraint, no class, despite all her pretensions. For about 3 minutes, nothing happened. The crowd started to disperse, moving toward the buffet tables. Grant and Mara were already posing for more photos. I was starting to think maybe I'd been wrong. Maybe it was just paranoia. Then Vivian made a small sound, like a gasp, but choked. She put her hand to her throat. The champagne glass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the floor. "Mom?" Mara's voice cut through the room. Vivian stumbled. Her face had gone pale, her eyes unfocused. She reached for a chair but missed, her legs giving out. She didn't collapse dramatically. It wasn't a movie scene. She just sort of folded, her body crumpling as the strength left her. Someone screamed. Grant rushed forward. The crowd surged toward her, everyone talking at once. I stayed back, watching Mara. She wasn't looking at her mother. She was looking at me. And the expression on her face wasn't fear or concern. It was something else entirely. Something like panic, but not the right kind of panic. Not the panic of a daughter watching her mother collapse. The panic of someone whose plan had just gone catastrophically wrong. Then she saw me watching her, and her expression shifted, smoothed out. She rushed to Vivian's side, playing the concerned daughter perfectly, but I'd already seen the truth. Someone called 911. Grant was on the floor, cradling Vivian's head, asking if anyone knew CPR. Leah was crying. The photographer had stopped taking pictures. The party was over. Aaron appeared next to me. "We need to leave, now." "Not yet. I want to see how this plays out." "Dean." "Not yet." The paramedics arrived 12 minutes later. Vivian was conscious but groggy, her speech slurred, her motor control compromised. They loaded her onto a stretcher, asking questions about what she'd eaten, what she'd drunk, any medical conditions. Grant rode with her in the ambulance. Mara stood in the parking lot, her phone pressed to her ear, her voice too low to hear. But I was close enough. I moved near the windows, pretending to talk to another guest, and listened. "It didn't work," she was saying. "No, the wrong person. I don't know how—" "No, we can't try again. Everyone's watching. Just wait. I'll figure it out." She ended the call and turned. Our eyes met through the window. For just a second, her mask slipped again. I saw fury there. Cold, calculating fury. Then someone asked her about her mother and she was crying, her voice breaking, asking how this could have happened, who could have done this, playing the victim so perfectly I almost believed it myself. Aaron tugged my arm. "Dean, we're leaving. Right now." This time I didn't argue. We slipped out the side door while everyone was distracted, drove home in silence. Erin's hands were shaking on the steering wheel. When we got inside, I poured us both 2 fingers of bourbon and sat down at the kitchen table. "What the hell just happened?" Erin asked. "They tried to kill me." "We don't know that." "Yes, we do. You saw her face. That wasn't shock. That was frustration that the plan failed." Erin drank her bourbon in one swallow. "Why? Why would they do this?" $42 million. For now. I stared at my glass. But if I'd collapsed at my own retirement party, had some kind of medical episode in front of 40 witnesses, what would have happened next? Erin's eyes widened. "They'd have you declared incompetent." "Exactly. One incident. Maybe they write it off. But if it happened again and again, suddenly I'm the guy who can't be trusted with his own finances. Suddenly Grant needs power of attorney. Suddenly..." My phone buzzed. A text from Grant. "Dad, Mom's going to be okay. Scary but not serious. Thanks for coming tonight. Love you." I showed it to Erin. She read it twice. "That's a lie," she said. "She brags about her perfect health every chance she gets." "I know. So they're covering it up. Or they genuinely don't know what caused it. Which means Mara hasn't told Grant everything." Erin stood up and started pacing. "We need to go to the police." "And tell them what? That I think my daughter-in-law tried to poison me but accidentally poisoned her own mother instead? With no evidence? No witnesses? Nothing but my word against hers?" "So what do we do?" I finished my bourbon, poured another, stared at the dark liquid and thought about the last 40 years. Every missed birthday, every sacrifice. Every time I chose the business over my family because I believed I was building something for them, building security, building a legacy, and they'd tried to kill me for it. "We investigate," I said, quietly, carefully. "We figure out exactly what they're planning and why, and then..." I met Erin's eyes. "Then we make sure they never get a chance to try again." She sat back down. "You're talking about revenge. I'm talking about survival. Dean, they tried to poison me, Erin, at my own retirement party, in front of my daughter, in front of strangers. They were willing to risk everything for that money, which means they'll try again. And next time, they'll be more careful." I leaned forward. "I built that company from nothing. I earned every dollar, and I'll be damned if I let them take it from me." Erin was quiet for a long time. Then she nodded. "Okay. Where do we start?" "With the one person who might know what's really going on. The one person who looked scared tonight. Leah. Before we go any further, hit the hype button, take a second to subscribe and like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And tell us in the comments, what would you do in this situation? I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that champagne glass, saw Mara's hand dropping something into it, saw Vivian's legs giving out. I kept running through scenarios in my head, trying to figure out what they'd used. Something fast-acting but not lethal. Something that would cause a medical emergency dramatic enough to be witnessed, but subtle enough to be written off as natural causes or an accident. Something someone with pharmaceutical connections could get their hands on. At 3 a.m, I gave up on sleep and went down to my workshop. The garage I'd kept behind the house, the one I'd built piece by piece over 30 years, it still smelled like motor oil and metal shavings, even though I hadn't worked on a bike in months. My tools hung on the pegboard exactly where I'd left them. My workbench was clean, everything in its place. I sat down at the desk in the corner and opened my laptop. Started searching. Drugs that could cause collapse, substances that mimicked medical emergencies, chemicals that dissolved clear in alcohol, benzodiazepines, Rohypnol, GHB, various sedatives and muscle relaxants. Some you could get with a prescription, some you needed darker connections for, all of them dangerous in the right dose, all of them potentially fatal if combined with the wrong medications or pre-existing conditions. Vivian was lucky. If she'd had a heart condition, if she'd been on the wrong medications, that champagne could have killed her, which meant it definitely would have killed me. I'd had a minor heart attack 3 years ago. Nothing serious, just a warning shot, but I was on daily medication to manage it. Anyone who knew my medical history would know that. Anyone who'd been asking Aaron about dietary restrictions and health concerns would know exactly what I was taking. They'd done their homework. This wasn't impulsive. This was planned. I heard footsteps on the stairs. Aaron appeared in the doorway, wrapped in her robe, her hair messy from tossing and turning. "Can't sleep either?" she asked. Not even close. She sat down on the old couch I kept in the corner. "What are you researching?" I told her. She listened, her face growing paler with each detail. "Dean, this is serious. This is attempted murder." "I know. We have to go to the police." "And tell them what?" "I don't have proof. I don't have the glass. The champagne's long gone. Vivian's in the hospital being told it was a bad reaction to medication she doesn't take. There's no evidence." I closed the laptop. All we have is what I saw, which legally is nothing. There has to be something we can do. There is. We gather our own evidence. We figure out exactly what they're planning, and we make sure they can't hurt us. Aaron was quiet for a moment. Then, "When are we talking to Leah?" "This morning, early, before she has a chance to talk to Grant or Mara." We waited until 7, then drove to Leah's apartment on the east side of town. She lived in a converted warehouse building, one of those trendy loft spaces that looked industrial chic, but had paper-thin walls and unreliable heating. Her graphic design work paid enough to cover rent and not much else. I knocked 3 times before she answered. She looked like she hadn't slept either. Her eyes were red, her face puffy, her hair unwashed. "Dad? Mom? What are you doing here?" "We need to talk," I said. "Can we come in?" She hesitated, then stepped aside. Her apartment was small but organized. Clean lines, minimalist furniture, her design work covering one wall in careful arrangements. She'd inherited my eye for detail and Aaron's sense of aesthetics. "Is Vivian okay?" Aaron asked. "She's fine. They're keeping her overnight for observation, but she's awake and talking." Leah wrapped her arms around herself. "It was scary. I don't know what I thought." "Leah, I need you to tell me the truth." I sat down on her couch. "What's going on with Grant and Mara?" "What do you mean?" "Don't play dumb. You looked terrified last night, and it wasn't because of Vivian." She bit her lip, started to say something, stopped, looked at Aaron like she was hoping for rescue. Aaron sat down next to her. "Honey, we're not angry at you, but we know something's wrong, and we need to understand what we're dealing with." Leah's eyes filled with tears. "I can't. They told me. Grant said if you what? If I said anything, they'd cut me out. Completely. No family events, no holidays, nothing, and they meant it. I could see it in Grant's face. He wasn't joking." My hands clenched into fists. "Cut you out of what?" "Everything. The inheritance, the will, any future help. Grant said you were going to split everything 3 ways when you die. But if I didn't keep quiet, I wouldn't get anything." "Keep quiet about what?" She broke. Started crying, the words spilling out between sobs. "They've been planning this for months. Ever since you announced you were selling the company. Mara said you owed them, that you'd spent their entire childhood being poor, that you'd missed everything important because of the business, that now it was their turn to benefit. She said 42 million was enough to set them up for life, but only if they got all of it. Not a third. All of it." Aaron's face had gone white. "All of it?" "She said you and Dad were still young, healthy, that you'd probably live another 20, 30 years, and by then the money would be gone on medical bills and retirement homes and whatever else. She said they needed it now, while they could still build something with it, while they could still invest it properly. I felt sick. And Grant agreed with this? He didn't at first, but Mara kept pushing, and then Vivian got involved, and she was saying the same things, that Grant deserved more, that he was your son, that I was just the daughter, that I'd marry eventually and take my husband's name anyway, so why should I get an equal share? She wiped her eyes. They wore him down. And then Mara started saying things like, what if we didn't have to wait and accidents happen? And Grant would tell her to stop, but he never actually disagreed. When did this start? Aaron asked. 6 months ago, right after you announced the sale was final. Grant called me one night, drunk, and said we needed to talk about our future. He came over and told me Mara had a plan. That's when he said I could either be part of it or I'd be cut out. I thought he was bluffing, but then they stopped inviting me to things, stopped calling. And when I asked what I'd done wrong, Mara said it was a loyalty test, that if I wanted to be part of the family, I needed to prove I could keep my mouth shut. About what? I pressed. About whatever they decided to do to get the money early. She looked at me, her eyes pleading. I didn't think they'd actually hurt anyone. I thought it was just talk, just Mara being dramatic. But last night when Vivian collapsed, Mara wasn't surprised. She wasn't shocked. She looked frustrated. And I realized, her voice broke. I realized they'd actually done something. I stood up and paced to the window, looked out at the gray morning, the empty street, $42 million, enough to poison your own father, enough to risk killing your mother-in-law by accident, enough to threaten your sister into silence. Did they say what they were planning? I asked. No, just that they'd figure it out, that Mara had connections who could help, that it would look natural. Connections where? I don't know. She mentioned someone named Reese a few times, a consultant or something. Someone who helps influencers with brand deals and business strategy. But the way she talked about him felt off, like it was more than just professional. Reese. I filed the name away. Anything else? Just that they were going to throw you the retirement party. Make it look like they cared. Make it look like everything was perfect. Mara said it was important for optics. For her brand. That if anything happened to you later, everyone would remember how devoted they'd been. Erin made a sound like she'd been punched. I turned around. She was staring at Leah like she didn't recognize her. And you didn't tell us? Erin's voice was cold. You didn't think we deserved to know our own son was planning to hurt us? I didn't think they'd really do it. Leah stood up, defensive. I thought it was just Mara being crazy. I thought Grant would stop her, and I was scared. You don't know what it's like being on the outside, being the one who's always second. Grant's the son, Grant's the favorite. Grant gets everything. I just wanted... She stopped, shook her head. I just wanted to still be part of the family. I looked at my daughter. 26 years old and still desperate for her brother's approval, still accepting scraps because she'd been taught that's all she deserved, still keeping secrets that could have gotten us killed because she was afraid of being alone. You're coming with us, I said. What? Pack a bag. You're staying at our house until this is over. Dad, I can't just leave. Yes, you can. Because if Grant and Mara think you've talked to us, you're not safe here. And I'm not leaving you alone to face whatever comes next. She stared at me for a long moment, then nodded, went to her bedroom, and started throwing clothes into a backpack. I pulled Erin aside. We need a plan, I said quietly. A real one. Not just defense. We need to know exactly what we're up against. How do we do that? We start with Reese. Find out who he is, what his connection to Mara really is, and whether he's just giving advice or actively helping them. And then? Then we figure out how deep this goes, who else knows, what they're planning next, and we make damn sure they never get the chance to try again. Erin nodded. I'll start digging into Mara's finances, see if there's anything unusual, large purchases, suspicious transactions, anything that might point to what they're doing. Good. I'll handle Reese. That night, I checked the security cameras obsessively. Every hour, every half hour, waiting for Grant to show up, for Mara to try something, for the situation to explode. But nothing happened. The house stayed quiet. The cameras showed empty driveways and still streets. By morning, I was exhausted and wired, running on coffee and adrenaline. Leah came down around 9. Did you sleep? Not really? Neither did I. I keep thinking about Monday, about what happens when they're charged, if they'll come after us, if they won't get the chance. The police will handle it. You don't really believe that. She was right. I didn't. Because people like Grant and Mara didn't just accept defeat. They fought. They schemed. They found ways to turn the tables or at least drag everyone down with them. And we still had 2 days before the police moved. 2 days when anything could happen. Stay inside, I told Leah. Don't answer the door, don't go anywhere alone, and if you see Grant or Mara, you call me immediately. Understood? She nodded, pale and scared. I spent the weekend preparing, made copies of everything, stored backups in 3 different locations, made sure Brennan had copies of all the evidence in case something happened to us, made sure Reyes had everything she needed to move forward, even if we disappeared. Because I wasn't taking chances. Not anymore. Not when the people trying to hurt us had already proven they were willing to kill. Sunday night, I was in the workshop going through old files when I heard a sound outside. Not loud, just a scrape of metal on concrete. The sound of someone trying to be quiet and failing. I pulled out my phone, checked the camera feed. Someone was in the driveway, moving toward the garage. Dark clothes, face covered. I called 911, kept my voice low. Someone's trying to break into my garage at 447 Maple Street. I'm inside. They don't know I'm here. Send someone fast. The dispatcher kept me on the line while I watched the camera feed. The figure was at the garage door now, trying the handle, finding it locked, moving to the side window. I heard glass crack. They're breaking in, I told the dispatcher. How far out are your units? 3 minutes. Stay on the line. Don't confront them. But I wasn't going to sit there and let someone break into my workshop. Not after everything I'd already lost. Not after everything they'd already tried to take. I grabbed a wrench from the workbench. Heavy, solid, good balance. Then I moved toward the door, staying quiet, staying low. The window shattered. A hand reached through, fumbling for the lock. I could see them now. Could see the shape of their body as they climbed through. The workshop lights were off. They couldn't see me in the shadows. But I could see them. They dropped to the floor, stood up, started moving toward my workbench. I hit the lights. They spun around, startled. I saw the face behind the mask, saw the recognition in their eyes. It wasn't Grant. It was Mara. We stared at each other across the workshop. Her face was half hidden by a black balaclava, but I could see her eyes, wide, caught, calculating her next move. You've got about 2 minutes before the police get here, I said, keeping my voice level. The wrench was heavy in my hand. You want to tell me what you're doing breaking into my garage? She pulled off the mask. Her perfect hair was disheveled, her makeup smeared. She looked nothing like the polished influencer who'd smiled for cameras at my retirement party. She looked desperate. I needed to find the documents, she said. The ones you got from Reese. I know you have copies. I need them back. So you decided to commit another crime? Breaking and entering on top of attempted murder? I didn't try to murder anyone. Her voice rose, defensive. That was supposed to be mild, just enough to make you sick. Just enough to need help. It wasn't supposed to. To kill me? To put Vivian in the hospital? What exactly was it supposed to do, Mara? Give us a chance. Give us a way out. You have $42 million and we have nothing. She was crying now, her voice breaking. You don't understand what it's like. Everyone judging us, everyone watching, having to look successful while drowning in debt, having to smile and post and pretend everything's perfect when we're 3 months from foreclosure. You gotta build something. You got your chance. Why shouldn't we get ours? Because you tried to steal mine instead of building your own. We tried. For years we tried. But nothing worked. Nothing was ever enough. And then you sold the company, and suddenly you were sitting on all that money, and I thought... She stopped, wiped her eyes. I thought you'd help us. I thought family meant something, but you just kept it all for yourself. I kept what I earned, after 40 years of work. What did you earn, Mara? Of course it is. Grant's weak. He's useless. He couldn't even help with the plan without crying about his daddy, without worrying about getting caught, without... She looked at me again, and I saw something cold in her expression. Something that had been there all along, hidden under the smiles and perfect photos. I didn't need him. I never needed him. He was just a means to an end. And what was the end? My money? A life. A real life. Not this performance. Not this constant, exhausting grind of trying to look rich while being broke. I wanted actual security. Actual wealth. The kind that lets you breathe. She took a step forward. I still want it. And you're going to give me those documents. All of them. Every copy. Or I'll... You'll what? She pulled something from her jacket pocket. A knife. Small but sharp. The kind you'd use in a kitchen. I didn't move. Just stared at her. You came here with a weapon. You planned this. I came here to get what I need. Give me the documents, Dean. Give them to me, and I'll disappear. You'll never see me again. No trial, no charges. I'll just go. And Grant? Grant can rot. I don't care anymore. I just need those documents gone so I can start over somewhere else. I heard sirens in the distance, getting closer. She heard them too. Her eyes widened. Give them to me. Now! No! She lunged. Not at me. At the filing cabinet in the corner, trying to get to it before I could stop her. I moved faster than I thought I could, decades of working with heavy machinery giving me reflexes she didn't expect. I grabbed her arm, twisted it, and the knife clattered to the floor. She screamed, fought, tried to claw at my face. I held on, not trying to hurt her, just trying to restrain her until the police arrived. She was surprisingly strong, fueled by panic and desperation. Let me go! Let me go! Stop fighting! You're only making this worse. I'll tell them you attacked me. I'll tell them you tried to kill me, just like you tried to kill Vivian. There are cameras everywhere, Mara. They'll see exactly what happened. That stopped her. She went still in my grip, breathing hard. Cameras? 4 of them. HD, cloud backup. Every second of you breaking in, every second of you threatening me, every word you just said about the plan, about Grant, about everything. It's all recorded. Her face crumpled. No. No, no, no. The sirens were right outside now. Red and blue lights flashing through the windows. Car doors slamming. Voices shouting. Millbrook PD! We got a report of a break-in. In here! I called out. I've got the intruder restrained. 2 officers came through the door, weapons drawn. They saw me holding Mara, saw the broken window, saw the knife on the floor. Let her go, sir. Step back. I released her and stepped away. She collapsed to her knees, sobbing. One of the officers cuffed her while the other approached me. You're Dean Halvick? That's right. Are you injured? No, but she broke in through that window, threatened me with that knife. It's all on camera if you need to see it. We'll need a statement, and we'll need to secure the scene. He looked at Mara. Ma'am, you're under arrest for breaking and entering. You have the right to remain silent. She wasn't listening, just crying, her perfect facade completely shattered. This wasn't how influencers' lives were supposed to go. This wasn't content for Instagram. This was real, ugly, irreversible. They took her out to the patrol car. Another officer arrived, then another. Detective Reyes showed up 20 minutes later, her expression grim. You really can't stay out of trouble, can you? She said. I was just sitting in my workshop. She came to me. and threatened you with a knife. After admitting to the poisoning, after saying she planned it all, after... I pulled out my phone. It's all recorded, video and audio, everything you need. Reyes watched the footage. Her expression darkened with each passing second. This is a gift, she said finally. This is her confessing to everything, admitting the plan, threatening you with a weapon, breaking and entering. This seals the case. What happens now? Now we arrest Grant. We charge them both. Conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, breaking and entering. They're both looking at serious time. Good. She looked at me carefully. You okay? That must have been scary. I've been scared for a week. Tonight was just confirming what I already knew. Which is? That they're willing to do anything for money. That there's no line they won't cross. That I can't trust them. I can't forgive them. And I can't let them have any power over my life ever again. Reyes nodded slowly. We'll need you to come down tomorrow. Give a full statement. Walk through everything. But Mr. Halvick, you did good tonight. You stayed safe. You didn't escalate. You let us do our job. That's the right way to handle this. I just wanted my life back. You will. This is almost over. But even as she said it, I knew she was wrong. Because trials take time. Legal battles take time. And even after they were convicted, after they were sentenced, after they were locked away, I'd still have to live with the fact that my own son had tried to kill me for money. That doesn't just end. That follows you. I went home at 3 a.m. Erin was waiting up, pale and exhausted. I heard on the scanner, she said, Mara broke in and confessed and threatened me with a knife and got arrested. It's over, Erin. They're finished. She started crying, not sad crying, relieved crying, the kind that comes after holding terror inside for too long. It's really over? The dangerous part is, the rest is just paperwork and court dates. We sat together on the couch, didn't talk, just existed in the same space, processing everything that had happened, everything we'd survived. Leah came down an hour later. I couldn't sleep, I kept hearing sirens. I told her what happened. She listened, her face going through a dozen emotions. Shock, anger, sadness, relief. They're really going to prison? She asked. If the prosecutor does their job, yes. Grant too? Grant too. I should feel bad. He's my brother. But I just feel empty. That's normal. You can grieve the person you thought he was while accepting the person he really is. Those are two different people. She nodded slowly. What happens to us now? Now we rebuild. We figure out what our lives look like without Grant and Mara in them. We move forward. Is it really that simple? No, but it's what we have to do anyway. Monday morning, Detective Reyes called. We arrested Grant an hour ago. He was at home, didn't resist, looked like he'd been expecting us. What did he say? Nothing. Lawyered up immediately. But it doesn't matter. Between Reese's testimony, Mara's confession on camera, and all the documentation you provided, we have more than enough for the DA to file charges. They're being arraigned this afternoon. Can I be there? It's a public hearing. You can sit in the gallery. But Mr. Halvick? Maybe don't. Maybe let the system handle this part. You've done your part. Let us do ours. She was probably right, but I needed to see it, needed to watch them face consequences, needed to know this was real. The arraignment was at 2 p.m., small courtroom, institutional lighting, hard benches. I sat in the back row. Erin stayed home with Leah. She'd said she couldn't watch, couldn't see Grant in handcuffs, couldn't be in the room when the charges were read. I could. I needed to. They brought Mara in first. Orange jumpsuit, no makeup, hair unwashed. She looked nothing like the woman who'd posed for photos at my retirement party. She looked broken. The judge read the charges. Conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, breaking and entering. Bail was set at $500,000. She didn't have it. She'd be held until trial. Then they brought in Grant. Same orange jumpsuit. Same hollow expression. But when he saw me in the gallery, something flickered in his eyes. Not remorse, not regret. Anger. Like this was somehow my fault. Like I was the one who'd forced him to try to kill me. The judge read his charges. Conspiracy to commit murder. Attempted murder. He pleaded not guilty. His lawyer argued for bail. The prosecutor argued he was a flight risk. The judge sided with the prosecutor. Grant would also be held until trial. He looked at me again as they led him away. Our eyes met. And I felt nothing. No sadness. No guilt. No lingering love for the child he'd been. Just cold certainty that this was right. That this was justice. I left the courthouse and drove home. Aaron and Leah were in the kitchen. I told them what happened. They listened quietly. "It's really over now," Aaron said. "Not over, but contained. They can't hurt us anymore." "What about the trial?" "Months away, maybe longer. But we've got time now. Time to heal. Time to figure out what comes next." Leah stood up. "I need to say something. I should have told you earlier. The moment Grant threatened me, the moment I knew they were planning something. I was a coward. I chose comfort over your safety. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I looked at my daughter. At the guilt and shame in her eyes. At the way she was waiting for me to condemn her the way I'd condemned Grant. "You were scared," I said. "You were manipulated. You were threatened. And you were brave enough to tell us when it mattered. You didn't help them. You didn't hide evidence. You didn't lie to protect them. You did what you needed to do to survive, and then you did the right thing. That's what matters." She started crying. Aaron hugged her, and I realized that even though I'd lost a son, I still had a daughter, still had a wife, still had people worth protecting, worth fighting for. The trial would come, the media coverage would come, the gossip and speculation and judgment would come. But we'd survive it, because we'd already survived the worst part. We'd survived betrayal by the people we were supposed to trust most. And we'd come out the other side. That night, I slept through for the first time in a week. No nightmares, no checking cameras, no jumping at shadows, just deep, dreamless sleep. When I woke up, the sun was streaming through the windows. Aaron was already up, making coffee. The smell drifted through the house. Normal. Peaceful. "Morning," she said when I came into the kitchen. "Morning. How do you feel?" I thought about it. About everything that had happened. Everything I'd learned about people I thought I knew. Everything I'd lost and everything I still had. "Lighter," I said. "For the first time in months I feel lighter." "Good. Because you've got a lot of years ahead of you. And they should be good years. Not this." She gestured vaguely at everything. The cameras, the new locks, the lingering fear. "They will be. Eventually." "Eventually," she agreed. But even as we talked about the future, about moving forward, about healing, I knew the truth. Some wounds don't heal. Some betrayals don't fade. You just learn to live with them. Learn to function despite them. And I'd never forget that lesson.